boss of Phil Gruber that I met Sheila and introduced her to Neil. And of course, Phil is carrying the original copy of my book, which
I'm sorry. I was just so absorbed, and
I know. I know. There's my book for real. But Phil, thank you for carrying a copy with you all the time.
You're welcome.
And thanks for being here at early 30.
Actually.
Yeah, is it 2:00 in the morning for you over there?
No, it's actually 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, it's a little later, so you're okay. Well, a dove just landed on my windshield out here at the old Phil Gruber living room I'm sitting in. Phil, I have to say, as an introduction, there's no one quite like Phil Gruber and his unique perspective. Actually, what is great about Phil is that he's able to combine so many different cosmologies and pull it together and bring it to people in a way that's understandable. So Phil, I hope you're working on something really great for today's presentation, because you are a walk-in among walk-ins. So
thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Ladies and gentlemen.
I had a tough time finding my glass. You know, that's the thing, when you lose your glasses, you don't have your glasses on to find your glasses. So it makes it very difficult to find your glasses when you've lost your glasses.
Well, I'm glad you found yourself, though.
Thank you. 3:30 a.m.
Go for it, Phil. It's all yours.
The stage, all through the house. Not a creature was stirring, except me, 3:30 in the morning.
And your mouth, so don't forget that. Yes.
Sheila wanted me to talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about walk-ins, but Sheila wanted me to talk about indigos and the connection between indigos and walk-ins. And this is something that I really am very, very excited about, because we're at a critical juncture here in our tenure as embodied souls. And the more we know about who we really are, where we come from, who we are, why we're here, what our purpose or purposes are here, then we've got a much better chance of fulfilling the evolutionary path of human consciousness, promises we made to ourselves so long ago that only dim traces really exist in fairy tales, myth, legends, folk tales. What I want to do today is I want you to treat this next hour as an initiation, as a meditation. Again, because we're on the path of freedom and the path of grace. And in moments of grace, we remember, and I'm hoping that I'm going to trigger a lot of memory. For a lot of you, this is going to be confirmational. For some of you, this will be revelatory. It'll be new, it'll be surprising. I'm hoping that you'll know that it's really coming from a place very, very deep within me. It's coming from my heart, because I'm so full of gratitude that I actually have this, what I have to share. You know that feeling you get sometimes when you feel your heart is expanding and it's just too large to fit in one body, and your life becomes about sharing everything. And that's what it's all about. And gratitude and being grateful for our presence here, the fact that we made it to this world. And now that we've made it, we need to remember why we're here. And the more that we can remember, the more that we can express gratitude. Because gratitude, aside from giving thanks, gratitude is a very powerful magnetic force. What gratitude actually does, in the Master Key by Charles Haanel, even in the first lesson, he talks about what the great secret of life is. The great secret of life is in the coordination of two very special centers. The centers he's talking about is the brain and the solar plexus. How do they coordinate? How do they come together? Gratitude is the magnetic force which brings the brain and the solar plexus together in the heart space. And this is where gratitude is felt. Gratitude is perhaps the most powerful force for healing in this or any other universe that I'm presently aware of. So here we go. Breathe easily and gently, deeply but comfortably, because you want to get the solar plexus involved. The solar plexus is the controller of the sympathetic nervous system to plumb to access the depth of emotion, of feeling. We create with feeling first. What comes first? The desire to manifest, and then the thought comes. And every thought is compelled by its nature to embody itself in an objectivity. Just like the genie may think that your wish is foolish, may come back to bite you squarely on the ass, but it has no choice but to grant the wish. It may think it's foolish, it may think it's gonna, not gonna do you any good, maybe do you harm ultimately, but the genie doesn't judge the wish. The thought doesn't judge it. The thought, if you have, let's say, for example, you have a negative thought, well, you've given birth to something. You've actually accessed it. You've invoked it from the void. In that void, in that darkness, in that blackness, in that black Madonna-ness, everything that could ever possibly manifest, that is manifest, has come from that void, from what they used to call the unformed substance. We live in seas of consciousness, but a lot of that consciousness hasn't taken shape in our world yet. How does it take shape? With our thoughts, the great gift of thinking something into being. Everything that we've manifested, for good or bad, has come from our thoughts and the desire to manifest something. So we give birth with each one of our thoughts. And as our children, they want us to be proud of them. If you have a negative thought, that thought doesn't judge its source. It's only there to fulfill the purpose for which it was created. So its only purpose, unless you rethink it, is going to want to manifest the most negative circumstances in your life. Same thing for positive thoughts. We need to start thinking in divine pictures. We need to understand who we are, where we come from, and why we're here, what our purposes are. We have unique and collective evolutionary destinies, and we are, no matter how it looks on the outside, folks, we are on the path of grace and the path of freedom. Our movement is always towards grace. Indigos, the children with the second sight, a natural thing so that they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew. That's one of the Mother Shipton prophecies. Now, this was, I think, 15th, 16th century. There's a lot of controversy on whether Mother Shipton wrote those prophecies, but somebody did back then that anticipated the coming of the Indigo Children. Even the Pistis Sophia is so unbelievably prescient, it actually anticipates the coming of the Indigo Children. And in truth, now breathe easily and gently, we want to get your solar plexus involved. The solar plexus is the gate to the universal treasury, to access the depth of emotion we need to really make the changes that we need to fulfill our evolutionary destinies. A lot of it is about the solar plexus. The Indigos, in truth, we represent a very old breed of consciousness that was once prevalent on the earth. The human race was originally created as an angelic race. The original human race, the Turanusium race, is about 560 million years old, and we were created for very special purposes. We were mainly created to be custodians and guardians of what used to be called, in one respect, the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail being the set of 12 planetary stargates. The reason they're so important is because the 12 planetary stargates on this planet give you access to the universal stargates, what's called the Universal Templar. That's why everybody comes here during ascension cycles. This is where the party is. Everybody comes here. It's not that we're looking to be less human, we're looking to be more human. Our humanity is our original creation as immortal angelics on a planet that exists right now in the fifth dimension, and it's called Tara. Many people call this planet Tara, and it's missing a piece of itself because of a cataclysm that happened about 550 million years ago, when a group came called the Templar Solar Initiates that like to work with huge crystal energy, massive crystal energy, to either force stargates open or artificially create stargates like the things they're doing at CERN, right? Well, let me tell you, the road to hell, the road to heaven is paved with good intentions too. But the thing is, we were created, the original human race, to be guardians and custodians of the planetary stargates and their access to the interdimensional stargates, to the interplanetary stargates, to the universal stargates. Whether your agendas are for good or not so good, everybody comes here. It's so important to have the knowledge of what these are and that they exist within us too. We represent a very old breed of consciousness that was once prevalent on the earth, and our reemergence today serve as harbingers of our race evolution. We are the way showers of things to come, because our race evolution is moving us ever closer to its intended hidden destination. We are here by design. We are here by intention. We are here because we asked to come. And we've asked to come to fulfill our part in a very grand evolutionary design and an evolutionary mission. So, and as we come to know better who the Indigos are, we're going to understand what our existence and why we're here and what that means for the transformation of our race. Okay? And our search to understand the implications of who we are and why we're here and what's happening on the planet now, it's going to lead us deep, very, very deeply into long forgotten past, far beyond the contemporary paradigms of psychology, spirituality, science, and even history. It's going to lead us into the exploration of what's called other worlds, because it's from other worlds that the Indigos have now come. We've come as a restatement of something very, very, very old and very, very precious. 950 billion years ago, a race called the Brennau Rishi. This is a race of pure light beings that exist in what we call the fifth density, the fifth harmonic universe, dimensions 13 and 14 of 15. These are beings of pure light. These are beings of pure waveform consciousness. When they manifest here in our perception, I think Sheila may have alluded to it. By the way, that was just absolutely awesome, Sheila. I was absolutely transfixed to the point where I don't even have my notes together. And I usually have hundreds of pages taped to the wall, taped to absolutely everything. But I was absolutely transfixed. That was just an amazing, amazing presentation. The Brennau Rishi made an agreement among themselves that life could evolve in our time matrix, what's called a 15-dimensional time matrix that's divided into 5 harmonic universes, 5 3-dimensional universes. The Emerald Covenant was that agreement. 950 billion years ago was just the last outbreath from the Great Mother. Who knows how many cycles of 950 billion years there have been? But 950 billion years ago, an agreement was reached through the Brennau founders races. These are our founders races. This goes back 950 billion years, that life would be allowed to stream to this time matrix, that life would be allowed to evolve cooperatively, with the idea that we are all on the path of grace and the path of freedom. That source would subdivide itself and subdivide itself and subdivide itself into God's holy sparks, into these fragments, into these singular identities. Why? To re-evolve back into the oneness. It's an amazing thing that the more advanced, the more evolved the mind, the greater the need sometimes for the simplicity of games. When you don't necessarily know the outcome, that's a whole nother story. But I want to talk specifically about the Indigos, because we are a restatement of that Emerald Covenant. That Emerald Covenant, that original co-creation agreement among the Brennau Rishi, 950 billion years ago, resulted in the creation of the original human race, the Turanusian race on the planet Tara 560 million years ago. Why? To help races that had gone into genetic digression, consciousness digression, because of genetic hybridizations, without a regard of the law of one, or doing things cooperatively, doing things in violation of spiritual rights, divine right order, the law of one, this type of stuff. And the result was, and through this hybridization and inbreeding, races that had lost their ability to naturally ascend. The human race was partially created to help those races that had gone into digression by offering them their evolutionary potentials back again. We are the result. The original human is a being that was formed from 12 or 24 different interstellar races, combined their DNA to create what's called the original human, or the Turinusem. Again, 560 million years ago. We'll get more into that in a minute, but realize that we are here. We've asked to be here. A lot of us don't make it here. A lot of us, we are contracted to come to Earth at this time. By the way, we come from the future. When you come from the higher dimensions, whether you come from the soul levels or the oversoul or the avatar levels, I believe just about everybody on this call, probably everybody on this call, certainly if you see the 1111 on the clock, I know I've talked about this a lot, which probably means that you've come on this journey, not as a result of past lives, but we've come from the future. Understand that what happens in the higher dimensions happens in our future. The angels are our future. The archangels are their future, our future also. The fact is that when the wholeness subdivides itself, the rishis subdivide into avatars, the avatars subdivide into archangels, the archangels subdivide into angels, and the angels subdivide into us. Here in this three-dimensional universe, there are you and at least 11 others that are part of a reincarnational family, a family of 12, a council of 12, and they're placed in different time-space locations within the three-dimensional universe, within this harmonic universe. They're not necessarily past lives. They are simultaneous identities that are part of the soul matrix, that are part of an angelic identity, not necessarily past lives. But realize that to them, we are their higher selves. When the angels have past life therapy, who do you think they're contacting when they're on the couch? When the higher expressions of Barbara Lamb are doing past life regressions, or Mary Rodwell doing past life regressions on angels, they're contacting us. We are the past lives of our future selves, you see? So more about the Indigos, okay? I'm going to talk mainly about the three major types of Indigos, okay? It's very important, again, to remember that the Turinusem was created 560 million years ago in harmonic universe 2, that's dimensions 4, 5, and 6. It is a semi-etheric physical matter system. We were seeded on the earth 3 times by elder races. And our evolutionary blueprint was that of the 12-strand, what's called the diamond sun DNA matrix. That 12-strand DNA matrix is called the diamond sun to races of higher evolution. And our long-term evolutionary goal on Earth was to assemble or reassemble and activate that diamond sun matrix for progressive transmutational dimensional ascension within an eternal body. This is our purpose, to reassemble the lost pieces of our DNA, to reassemble that 12-strand DNA silicate matrix. Why? For progressive transmutational dimensional ascension. The Turinusem human race was seeded on the earth originally in the form of the 12 tribes. 7 root races, 7 cloister races. Rudolf Steiner has a lot of this information. Each root race cycle evolved 1 of the diamond sun DNA strands. Each cloister race kept the potentials of the strands 7 to 12 alive within the gene pool. Presently, humanity is in the last days of the 5th Aryan root race cycle. Yes, a race of masters, but not the master race. And our race, understand, has experienced a lot of genetic digression, excessive genetic digression through ancient tampering and mutation by visitors from other worlds. The contemporary indigo children are hybrids. We're all hybrids of the elder race, plus the 6th and 7th root races called the Paradisians, the B'nai Or, the B'nai Elohim, sons and daughters of God, whether you want to call Indigos psychic children, super psychic children, mythic, magical, mystic children, children of the blue ray, children of the blue star Kachina, Melchizedeks. Remember, the meek shall inherit the earth. There's no original word that has anything to do with meekness. Meek is an acronym, Me-ek, Melchizedeks. Get it? The Melchizedeks will inherit the earth because we are the incarnations of the final root cloister races, the 6th and 7th root races, the Melchizedeks, the Paradisians, names I can't even pronounce, Uingen Heki. So again, the contemporary Indigo children are hybrids of an elder race. The elder race, the seed race from which the human race emerged, was called the Oraphim. And I know a lot of us have had experience with race we call the Oraphim, Lyran, Syrian, Anuhazi, felines, leonine. Okay, I don't want to, is April on this call? If April, you're on this call, please show your leonine to everybody. This was just an incredible, a beautiful portrait of what the Lyran, Syrian, Anuhazi actually look like when they come into our perception. So we're part of the elder race, the 7th root race, Melchizedek, and what's called the Uniceti cloister race, and the modern human. We're part of a modern day hybridization experiment. Why? To reverse mutate the human gene code that went into mutation, restore the diamond sun DNA matrix potential within the Earth human lineage. And this plan has always been orchestrated actively by members of the elder races of higher evolution that right now reside in the higher harmonics of matter. Indigos are ET future race hybrids, each and every one of us more fully human than human. So again, the contemporary human lineage began 560 million years ago, the Turanusian race. Other stellar races existed for billions of years before the Turanusian experiment started, but it was started to allow a new evolutionary option for those ancient stellar races that had experienced genetic digression and could no longer ascend, could no longer complete transmutative dimensional ascension. In our time matrix, many of us began in the cradle of Lyra. That's why we see the 1111 on the clock. 11th dimensional Lyra. Now these are dimensions of pre-matter hydroplasm, liquid light, liquid silica, liquid crystal. 11th dimensional Lyra, in that cradle of Lyra, used to be called Avion. But because of mistranslations and semantic depletion, guess what that 11th dimensional Lyran system came to be known as? Avalon. Yes, the mists of Avalon, or the pre-matter liquid light consciousness of the avatars, the Christed ones, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas of the 4th harmonic universe, or the 4th density. If you've come from Avalon, from 11th dimensional Lyra, that's the first 11. When you come into incarnation, you've got to pass through certain stargates, right? You do black and white holes, in the black hole, out the white hole, a series of stargates, which are simply structures of energy that you pass through that allow passage from dimension to dimension, harmonic universe to harmonic universe. To get into incarnation here, into fetal integration, into that first cell, you've got to go through the Earth's core, a major stargate, interdimensional stargate, interplanetary stargate called the Amenti, the halls of Amenti, or the flame of Amenti. And when you pass through the flame of Amenti, you leave an imprint of your DNA. This is one of the major missions of all the Christ avatars and Buddhas that have incarnated on the planet. By coming into the planet, you leave an imprint of your DNA. Jesus, both of them, all the Buddhas and all the Christed avatars that have ever come, left imprints of that 12-strand diamond sun DNA. But that mission wasn't completed 2,000 years ago. It took the waves of indigos coming in the last 100 years as we came through and left our imprints in that Earth's core, all incoming souls now have the same genetic potential and have the same evolutionary potential as we do, which is that 12 strand. Some have even more, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so the cradle of Lyra. Oh, so wait, before you come into incarnation, after you pass through the Earth's core, that huge interdimensional stargate, you have to pass through one of the Earth stargates. And the Earth stargates that correspond to the 11th dimension, Avalon in Lyra, is the Vale of Pusey in England, where many of the crop circles are, many of them to facilitate our fetal integration and our passage into incarnation, and a little island off the coast of Ireland called the Isle of Eye. Okay, and then we come into fetal integration. So when that digital clock turns to 11:11, we can't help but notice because we're coded with that 11:11. All right. Okay, so, but we're going to talk about this. We need to little bit talk about the interstellar interdimensional dramas. And I probably will talk about that because we're now at a critical juncture, again, in our race's embodied souls. And what's going on out there, we need to understand where that's rooted. And believe me, the book doesn't stop with what's called the children of the Black Sun. Human incarnates or hybrids of draconian Dracos races, because it goes even beyond that. It goes even beyond that to insect reptile hybrids. Many of them are called the Necromaton Odetocron. These are races that even lorded over the Dracos. And you see many of Earth's incarnates here. If you've come from what's called the Ruby Order, the Belli Cudium, if you're one of their incarnates, you carry a recessive gene. That recessive gene is what usually is the object of most contact or abductions. There's a recessive gene that is part of the genome of these incarnates of what's called the Ruby Sun Order, the Belli Cudium, which many of us have had dealings with. That gene allows one, a Draco consciousness or a Dracon consciousness to embody a human consciousness, even as far as to push it out. But you see the technology has advanced to the point where they're using more genetic windows of infiltration now to human consciousness. We understand that that's happening. We don't focus on it. We need to work on our own spiritual and personal evolutionary process, and all that will come along with it, you see, because they don't understand what we understand. They don't understand how it works, how the whole system works. I would like to talk to you more about this, but I want to talk about the Lyran Syrian Anuhazi. These are Syrian whites that seeded the Azurite race. These are the Syrian blues in the harmonic universe 2 Sirius system. They seeded the the Turanusium human on Tara. The Lyran Syrian Emerald Order Anuhazi and the Azurite genetic imprint was used as the seed races for the Turanusium race. We absolutely need to understand what this is. And I don't want to go into a lot of the names of the races. I don't want to confuse anybody, just so I know. You would love to know it, but there will be other presentations where I'll really get more into the races, who they are, where they come from. But just for now, since we're talking about indigos and walk-ins, I want to talk, I don't know how much time I have left. How much time do I have left, including the question and answer? Because I want to get into, I need to know how much time I have left.
Until 12:45. No, 1:45.
How many minutes do I have left? That's what I need to know.
Until 1:30, I guess.
So how many minutes does that give me?
I don't know. Hold on.
Because I'm in total channeling mode now, okay?
Will you just go for it?
Okay, so Indigo Children, I'm going to talk about the 3 main types of Indigo Children, especially the type that relates to walk-ins. I was going to, if I had more time, and certainly in future presentations, like I have in the past, I'll get into specifics, who the races are, who the races that contributed their genetics to the creation of the original human race. I will actually talk about who the Luciferians are. It's a very, very complex hybridizer, collective of hybridized races. But when you know this information, a lot starts to make sense. Having this larger context and having the specific information on who these races are, what their names are, where they come from, what their purposes were, what their interactions were with humanity, we begin to understand more and more where these dramas are sourced.
You
And
have
believe
about
me,
an
like
hour.
I have an hour? Are you serious?
About an hour. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Jim comes on.
wow.
Yeah, Jim comes on at
Okay.
12:45.
That's really nice. I can take a breath now. I just get so excited. You know, I did a 3-hour presentation just a few hours ago for some students in Brazil that I didn't even know was going to happen until 5 minutes before it happened. So I'm pretty wired now. I'm pretty fried, but I have a lot of amazing information for you to share. So genetically, now I can slow down a little bit. Genetically, indigos are defined as ET hybrid, an ET human hybrid race from the future. We qualify as extraterrestrial because our genetic code is that of the original Orapheme race. That is our elder race. Lyran, Syrian, Anuhazi, and what's called the Azurites, the blues, Syrian blues, also Syrian whites, and the Lyran Anuhazi, which are the Lionines, the cat-like people. The seed race, through which the original Tyrannusium human lineage in Harmonic Universe 2, basically anchored in Dimension 5, was created. Indigos are ancient Orapheme elder race stellar humans, incarnating now as part of a contemporary human hybridization program, evolutionary experiment, actually, through which that 12-strand diamond sun DNA can be reawakened within the Earth human lineage. Some indigo Orapheme carry a double diamond, which we'll talk about. Some even carry what's called the emerald sun DNA matrices that allow for a complete transmutative dimensional ascension. Okay. Now we're considered a future race because why? We enter fetal integration with parts of the 5th and 6th strands activated. Why are we called indigos in the first place? It's because just because the psychics, the clairvoyants began to see that indigo aura around especially children. Why children? Because their life force made the colors more brilliant, okay? But just because they started seeing them in the 70s doesn't mean that we started coming in the 70s. We've been coming in for a very, very long time, but major waves started coming in the 70s. If some of these more powerful indigos had started coming in the 70s, the planet would crack. It would absolutely explode because the Earth grids couldn't carry the frequency of too many of them coming in at one time. So they had to come first in dribs and drabs until the Earth grids could support them. And since I know that I have a little bit more time, I'm going to talk about the opening of the 7 seals and another very powerful reason why we're here during this, what's called the stellar activation cycle, this ascension cycle. People have been wanting to know what this shift of the ages is and the ascension cycle. It's an alignment of interdimensional stargates, central suns of this universe and the higher harmonic universe, through which higher dimensional frequency, energy, consciousness, actually the higher parts of ourselves, the more realized parts of ourselves are coming in, integrating with us and the planet. And for that to happen, there are chakras, major vortices on the planet that have had to open, and they've had to open on time, stay open, and now they're in their closing cycle. They needed to close on time too, and we will get to that for sure. So, all right, here we go. So, types and purposes of indigo children. There are 3 primary types of indigo children. Oh, and the reason that the psychics and clairvoyants saw that indigo aura was because that indigos come in with portions of the sixth strand already activated. The sixth strand processes six-dimensional frequency. Every DNA strand, every double helix is like a translator. It's a transducer of consciousness, of dimensional frequency, of energy, if you will. So each strand is programmed to process, really translate, transduce one bandwidth of dimensional frequency. So if your sixth strand is operating, you are processing six-dimensional consciousness, which we perceive with our vision as the color indigo. And that's the reason we started to be called Indigo Children. We've been called a lot of things before Indigo Children. There are three primary types, each with a different version of the original Orifeme genetic code, and each serving a different purpose. There are indigo recessive type 3s. They're the most common type of indigo child presently incarnate on Earth. Then there's the indigo dominant type 2, which I believe most, if not all of us on this call are. You will know in a few minutes. Please take this, consider this carefully, if you are an indigo type 3 or not. I think most of us are indigo type 2s. I think a lot of us are the 1111s. Then there's the indigo composite type 1s, the most uncommon type, okay? So now, we're going to start with the indigo recessive type 3s, and this is going to be a revelation for a lot of people. By the way, my walk-in occurred at the age of 6. I was coming back from the dentist. I was already high on nitrous oxide. I got out of the driver's side. We estimate Roberta Eich's father was going about 60 miles an hour, hit me head on, threw me up in the air and down the street. I landed not a scratch. Blah, 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 blah. This is when my parents, well, my mother wanted to take me to psychiatrists because I was talking all this stuff about dimensions and other worlds. And this was before I was reading comics. I really had no way of knowing this. Not from watching Felix the Cat. Certainly, there's a lot you can get out of watching Felix the Cat, but not this stuff. And not when your imaginary playmates are Metatron. I mean, give me a break. And the fact that I was an imaginary playmate to other people. You know, very Felix the Anuhazi cat. I like that.
The wonderful, wonderful cat.
That's right. Whenever you get in a fix, he reaches into his bag of tricks. Right? And his arch enemy was the master cylinder. Boy, I can talk about that for a long time. Anyway, indigo recessive type 3s. There are more of these on the planet. Why? Here we go. Breathe easily and gently, deeply but comfortably. Indigo type 3s are part of an Orifeme Nephilim hybridization program through which ancient Nephilim, they're Anunnaki and hybridized with what we call the cloister human from the second seeding of the human race, would be provided with the new race line to evolve in order to clear their DNA distortions so their codes of ascension can be regained, okay? The Orifeme Nephilim, remember the Nephilim, the sons of God descended upon the daughters of men. The progeny of the Nephilim and human females were called the Raphaim. The Raphaim, they were the ancestors of the Benjaminites, the Benjamin tribe of Israel, and they were called the abominations. Why? Because they were the spawn of Nephilim, fallen angels, and human females. And during 2,000 years ago, there were lots of clusters of these Benjaminite women, Benjamin tribe in Galilee and Nazareth. These were the women that were chosen to be the Marys in the circle of Marys. Mother Mary, her mother, Anna, they all were Benjaminite women. And the reason they were so special and the reason they were trained to be temple priestesses, temple whores, whore means divine child. And the word prostitute originally means a woman who is sovereign unto herself. The reason that they were trained to be these sacred priestesses was because of their gene code. Because they were the spawn of angels and humans, that type of hybrid, they had very specialized gene codes. And doing special secret practices, they could generate very exotic biochemistries in the body to give a real taste of the Christos. When these men, mainly men, would come into the temple It was so holy, the holy of holies, the whole of holes, that the sacred sex was only done in the temples. We can talk about this for a long time. Mary Magdalene also. In the Pissa Sophia, Jesus actually talks about how he found his mother, Mary, to birth through. He was scanning the world looking for a virgin. If you go back to the original root of the word virgin, it means more than just young child. It means a creative energy that lives in a state of innocence. In other words, he was looking for a mother who didn't have any karma, who lived in a state of innocence, who only thought in divine pictures. Because what good would it have done for his mission if he would birth through a woman that still had unresolved karma? You see, so he was looking for a creative energy, a woman who lived in a state of innocence. And it's all, this whole journey is about our return to innocence, our clearing karma. And I will tell you, the energies, the consciousness, the actual living identities of forgiveness and grace and gratitude are the most powerful forces for healing in this or any other world I know. Type 3 indigos have an Orifeme 24-strand double diamond, but also an 11-strand, what's called a reverse Templar Sun DNA, which gives them, blah, 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 a maximum potential of 12-strand diamond sun DNA matrix. Type 3 indigos are literal incarnations of two different avatars in one body. This is why they act the way they do. There's an Orifeme avatar overseeing a Nephilim avatar. And the core of their life purpose is to mend the extremes of polarity between the reversed 11-strand DNA matrix, which Kabbalah is very good at doing, and the 12-strand potential. But their lifetimes serve an important role, just as important as the type 1s and type 2s in the greater plan, which is healing the DNA distortions within the Nephilim, Anunnaki, and human genetic lines. And this is why they have the most extreme polarity issues of all the indigos. They may be highly intelligent, mathematically inclined, athletic. Of course, it's the Anunnaki, Nephilim genetics. But they have difficulty emotionally bonding. They're the ones that seem like there's an angel and a devil in one body. Understand this, okay? Indigo recessive types, the indigo type 3s, are literal composites of two entirely different avatars incarnating in one body. The Orifeme avatar possesses that 24-strand double diamond sun DNA and always remains the dominant force within the personality if the gene code operates properly. The second avatar spirit is that of an 11th dimensional Nephilim, the race of the giant Anunnaki cloister humans who were banned from the earth many years ago. So the gene code of the Nephilim is that of what's called 11-strand reverse Templar sun. The Nephilim race has literally been trapped between harmonic universe 1 and 11th dimensional manifestation cycles for thousands of years due to the DNA distortion from the Anunnaki lines. A lot to say about that, okay? But you see, the incarnating Nephilim avatar must agree in subservience to the Orifeme avatar until that Nephilim regains its 12-dimensional fire letters that allow them to connect with what's called the Rishi collective, so they may experience the genuine frequencies of love, bonding, compassion. Indigo recessive, the type 3s, have the most difficulty in balancing polarity and consciousness, due mainly to the reversed Nephilim fire letters. They are most vulnerable to obsessive compulsive disorders, bipolar, and extreme polarity and perspectives. The Nephilim imprint tends to activate first in the type 3s. This is where you get an aggressive, hyperactive child that spends most of its life, early life especially, testing the extremes of the boundaries between right and wrong. You know what I'm talking about, constantly challenging authority. And the type 3s may seem like the children from hell. And it can also do a complete turnaround into nearly angelic, loving behavior. It may seem like the child has an evil twin that emerges, that dark side that's capable of being loving, but also extreme thoughtlessness and cruelty. That's the Nephilim part of it. And the Orpheme part is attempting to not just balance it, but to clear the distorted DNA imprint, counterbalancing it. Okay. But sometimes you have this conflict and you get extreme and rapid shifts of polarity within the behavior, within the attitude of them. I'm spending more time with type 3s because there are more of them on this planet, whether it's you or somebody you know. Here's how you identify them. The personality of the type 3s often lead to self-destructive behaviors and substance addiction. Why? Because they want to numb themselves from the feeling of this constant internal conflict and apprehension. If the Nephilim avatar identity attempts to overrun the identity, then the Orpheme avatar will assert its authority, and it will shut down communication of that being. Many cases of autism occur in type 3 indigo children as a result of the Orpheme avatar literally unplugging some of the Nephilim DNA codes to retain control over the body. In these cases, the conscious personality feels stuck in the middle of an internal battle it just cannot comprehend. It experiences fear, dread, apprehension, depression, and the chemical imbalances that result from this morphogenetic disharmony. Oh man. A lot of dark side happens during adolescence and adulthood. Ideally, the two avatars that share the body work to balance the polarities in the DNA. When dealing with the type 3 indigos, and still in this day, it's best to realize that two different beings are literally inhabiting one body, and that frequently they disagree. I tell you, if the psychological psychiatric paradigm would at least be open to this information, it would be a revolution in psychology and psychiatry. Okay. Tough love, clearly defined boundaries are often necessary, but they must be administered with fairness and democracy. You see, it's very, very important for them. Due to the Nephilim imprint, type 3 indigos, they can be very gifted in math, languages, technological sciences, very competitive. That's the Anunnaki part of them. Okay. But then again, the softer side can be very innocent and childlike, right? It's a new experience for the Nephilim, bonding, this kind of stuff. They are highly conflicted souls. They sometimes die early. They sometimes suicide. This life, this world is sometimes just too conflicted for them. But their lives are not wasted. They've incarnated here to assist in the creation of a new race line through which an ancient race, the digressive Anunnaki, the Pleiadian Nibiruan Anunnaki for the most part, can re-evolve back into the light. So they're doing a great service for the Nephilim and the human lineage in terms of realigning the Anunnaki genetic distortions. But the worst extremes of behavior can take place with them. They have a stronger physical constitution, stronger athletic abilities, a strong physical body. They may grow to elongated proportions, not unlike Tony Robbins. Characteristic of the Nephilim's physique: face, chiseled bone structure. Okay. Now, like all indigos, type 3s, like all of us, we felt out of place. We had that feeling, that Greek word pathos, that transcendental longing, feeling that we belong but not necessarily here. I mean, it must be very frustrating for your parents to hear that they're not your real parents, and they ask you where you come from, and you point to the sky. I mean, it must be very frustrating. I can understand how they feel. But like all indigos, most of us have felt really out of place, bored or disinterested, or very interested in earthly affairs, and being acknowledged we march to our different drummer, because that's precisely what we are. Now the Indigo Type 2s. The Indigo Type 2s are an Orifeme human hybridization program through which the 12-strand diamond sun DNA is reinstated within the Earth human lineage. We're here, if you're a Type 2, to restore the codes of ascension of the human lineage. Type 2 Indigos have the Orifeme 24-strand double diamond DNA matrix, which gives us a maximum potential of 24 to 30 ascension codes, through which not just soul integration in one lifetime. Remember, the original angelic human race was immortal. But if you're a double diamond sun, Orifeme 24-strand potential not activated at birth, some of the higher strands activated at birth, an avatar identity can embody in one lifetime and may then expand into its Rishi identity level. Type 2 Indigos are one Orifeme avatar in one body. So we don't display the extremes in polarity imbalance of the Type 3s. The core of our life purpose is to assist in raising consciousness within the Earth lineage, to build the critical mass, like I said before, of that diamond sun DNA within the human gene pool. Every time we get a chance to incarnate here, sometimes we start the fetal integration process, but we see that our mothers, we like to go with our first choice of parents, especially the mothers. But if we feel that the mothers, our parents, especially the mother, hasn't done enough clearing of the karmic miasmic imprint, we will turn around and go back, because we do not want to be born with disabilities. Here on the Earth, it's manifested as stillbirths, miscarriages, abortions, but realizing, yes, they are tragic events, but they're orchestrated on higher levels, so that indigo soul, that indigo identity can come in without any problems, more than they would naturally face in a lifetime here. We're here to build that critical consciousness. We're here to hold and run higher dimensional frequency for planetary grid work. Indigo Type 2s, we have advanced psychic development, and we may have open dimensional contact from birth throughout life. We are often gifted in linguistic translation, the arts, music, and interpersonal diplomacy. But many of us can become excessively introverted due to fear of the Earth environment, and you know what I'm talking about. We are the most personable of all the types of indigos, and we enjoy human bonding if sheltered, if we know it's safe. Okay, of course, there's a lot more I'm summarizing. Now the indigo composite type 1s, there are very few of them on the planet. If they try to come in, or they forced to come in or invoked to come in, it can really cause a lot of disruption in the electromagnetic balance of the planet. Poles can migrate, worst case scenario, the poles can shift. When that happens, life is vaporized off of the surface of the planet, which has happened several times. Type 1 indigos are part of the human Orifeme hybridization program, serving to expedite, accelerate, reach a critical mass of that diamond sun matrix, diamond sun, that 12-strand in the race gene pool. Type 1 indigos have an emerald order Orifeme 48-strand. Why it causes imbalances? Because you have too much energy circulating through the grids, too much energy, and it reaches blocks in the planetary grids. It would just build up. This compaction will build up and the Earth would just split. What happens is it fractures to allow the energy to keep moving, but that fracturing causes the subduction zones, which cause earthquakes, volcanoes, climatic changes, that type of stuff, electromagnetic imbalances, even in our own bodies, which I'll talk about in a minute. That 48-strand emerald sun DNA matrix, remember that original co-creation agreement by the Brennout Rishi, by the beings of pure light, 950 billion years ago. You see, the whole idea is the great mother takes the breath in and then breathes out again. And then 950 billion years later, takes the breath in again and breathes out again. This is the unicide. This is the breathing rhythm of the cosmos. This is the dance. Okay, the 48-strand emerald sun DNA matrix gives them a maximum potential of 30 to 48 ascension codes, through which not only the avatar identity may embody, I don't have a website, 1 minute, and the consciousness may expand to the ascended master identity levels, which is beyond the time matrix, which is beyond light, which is 3 very special levels called the energy matrix of non-dimensionalized sound vibration. The ascended masters are really cosmic seas of non-audible vibrational sound. The levels of the 3 flames, the violet flame, gold flame, and the blue-green emerald flame. So the indigo type 1s can evolve into ascended mastery in one lifetime. But here's the thing with type 1 indigos, they always incarnate through walk-in agreements. And in this walk-in agreement, a smaller soul essence from their own oversoul collective begins the incarnation. Why? To raise the frequency of the body. And once the DNA is sufficiently activated, the original soul walks out into ascension, and the avatar identity walks in. In other words, the avatar transfers its spirit's essence into the body to awaken within the body and fulfill its world service contract. The walk-in usually occurs at age 12 or 22, but it usually must occur by the age of 33. Indigo type 1s have advanced psychic and occasionally direct manifestation abilities, usually have physical contact with the elder race family in childhood, and a core life purpose from such small ages for advanced planetary grid work. I mean, I have a 5-year-old niece who tells me she's here to save the world. She didn't get that from the Care Bears, certainly, or whatever they are these days. Advanced planetary grid work, they are sensitive to everything. And they often remain detached from human issues to focus on their service contracts. But they hold such great love within themselves for all life forms. This is a love that truly knows no earthly bounds, okay? The Christos, remember that collective field of consciousness is the liquid light, pre-matter dimensions of 10, 11, and 12, okay? And it represents the point of unity between all interstellar races. That common pre-matter avatar Buddhaic identity is shared by all manifest beings. The healing, ultimately, of our intergalactic collective is going to come through, may only come through an understanding of the common core of creation, out of which all races have emerged. You see, the digressive races, they have forgotten that. And we remember, and it's up to us not to necessarily help them remember directly. By us remembering, it's going to bleed into their race lines. They understand we can give them love, but they cannot receive it. They are not capable. They don't have their own Christos spark. They don't have what we have. They can't accept it. And realize that it's very, very important. Sure, you can give them love, but understand that they truly can't accept it. They live in a sort of hive mentality. Like I said, there are the children of the Black Sun, what we call the elite, but realize their strings are being pulled by the Dracos Dracon collectives. And it is my personal belief that their strings are even being pulled by the insect reptilian draconian hybridized collectives that we non-affectionately call the necromaton. They're beetle reptile hybrids. I think the buck stops with them. And they're 11th dimensional avatars, but fallen avatars. They are the anti-Christos. I'd like to talk to you more about the founder elder races, the codes of Lyra, but realize that when the 12 strands are activated, it will allow the body to experience full transmutation and ascension into liquid light pre-matter meta-terrestrial identity, fully embodied avatars. This was the promise of the original human race, that in one immortal lifetime, we could evolve to become fully embodied avatars, to exist in those dimensions of liquid silica, liquid crystal, and then continue our evolution into the Rishi. And then we go back out through the metagalactic core of the 8th dimension, and we expand into those non-dimensionalized realms of pure sound, the levels of ascended mastery. And then a few other steps when we're at full at-one-ment. And then what happens? We go back out into individuation, and then back again. Syrian hybrid humor, more like Lyran. But that's okay. Remember, we are all these things. The reason that a lot of light language channelers, aren't they beginning to sound the same? They're sounding, well, I can't do it, but it's sounding a little bit Native American, a little bit of Navajo, a little bit of Chinese, Japanese, this and that, a little bit of Atlantean. You know, it's because the languages that are being channeled now that are more easily accessible are the ones that are closest to us genetically. So the first languages we're going to be channeling are Pleiadian and Syrian light languages. Because as the 5th and 6th strands start to activate, we're going to be able to embody 5th and 6th dimensional consciousness, which is Pleiadian and Syrian. Just for the record, 7th dimensional consciousness is Arcturian. And we have identities there too. 8th dimensional, Orion. 9th dimensional, Andromedan. And 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional, the Christos, the liquid light Christos. Okay, so what I want to do before some questions, I want to do a couple of techniques. One, specifically to create contact platforms through which you could create your own dedicated line to higher intelligence. Who's higher intelligence? Your higher intelligence. Remember, we have identities existing simultaneously in all these dimensions. The reason that you may think you're Pleiadian or from the Pleiades is only because the memory is accessible from the 5th strand, you see. When the 6th strand is operating, you'll have memory of even more ancient root cloister races, way far back before the Atlantean, Lemurian, Polarian, Hyperborean races, Hyperborean, Polarian races. And you'll start to channel those languages. 7th dimensional Arcturian, again, 8th Orion, 9th Andromedan, 10th, 11th, and 12th is the cradle of Lyra. Remember, rockabye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough or the seal breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. Well, we may have fallen to the bottom of the tree, although this isn't the bottom, we still carry the imprint of the cradle of Lyra within ourselves and that potential for dimensional ascension. What is ascension? Multi-dimensional identity integration. And it is, of course, you can, the Arcturians are basically grounded in the 7th dimension, but of course, once you're there, you can have access to the higher aspects of yourself. I'm just relaying that when you have these certain strands activated, you're going to be able to access the memory of that dimension, okay, of that bandwidth. The full 12 strands activated, nobody on this planet, I think, has, I don't think anybody has 6 strands. If you had 6 strands activated, you'd be a fully embodied angelic. You'd be able to shift between one harmonic universe and another harmonic universe at will. You'd have a 6th dimensional, what's called a holophase Merkaba vehicle. I'm just saying we have simultaneous identities right here, right now, in a 3-dimensional universe, but in different time-space coordinates, not necessarily past lives, simultaneous identities. Good, 20 minutes, yay. It'll give me time to do this. And we exist simultaneously in the Pleiades, on in the Pleiadian time cycles, Syrian time cycles, Arcturian time cycles, Orionic time cycles, Andromedan time cycles, and Lyran time cycles. The parts of ourselves that exist in the Pleiadian, Syrian time cycles are angels in the 5th and 6th dimensions. Also, and the 7th, 8th, and 9th, the Arcturian, Orion, Orionic, and Andromedan, they are oversouls or archangels. The ones that exist in Lyra, 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensions, and those prematter liquid light levels, they are avatars, Christed ones. So we have all these identities already existing here. Well, not here, but in future time. Well, actually here, but in different frequency bands. So you want to take a deep breath, or even grab some water if you like. This is a technique. Much of this information, practically all of it tonight, comes to us by the grace of the Emerald Order of Melchizedek Cloister. Very specific channels, but more not channeling in the conventional sense, more like digital downloading, which we can all learn to do, which I teach in my personal mentorships. I do sessions, but I also do more extended mentorship programs, a half a year, up to 2 years, where we do everything. Okay, leading up to, of course, transmutational dimensional ascension. To have that, will there be recording? I think so. I'm pretty sure. Okay, here we go. Now, a contact platform. It's very, very good to create your own dedicated line, communication line to higher intelligence. Who's yours? Okay, here we go. Should I do the beginning here? Yeah, why not? Okay. Should I? Okay. I hope if you feel a little bit of compression, just let me know. But I think you're going to be okay. Okay. All right. I have 20 minutes. Okay. Well, before I do that, yes, I'll do this first. Okay. And I'll just do the second part. Okay. I want you to breathe easily and gently. And I want you, my email is on the chat, okay? If you're interested in a session, any consults, or the longer extended mentorship programs, this is what I love to do. It's so great when you know what you're here to do. The contract may change. Right now I'm landlocked in Singapore, but I'm really hoping to be back in the spring, hoping to be back for the Academy for Future Sciences Easter celebration in Scottsdale. Alan can talk a little bit more of that. But first I got to get out of here. Anyway, begin by visualizing a blue spark of light in the center of your brain. I can send you email me, or somehow, or tomorrow we'll get these steps to you. Visualize a blue spark of light in the center of the brain at the pineal gland. Now, this blue spark of light represents a portion of your conscious awareness. It's funny how a lot of people will say, oh, I'm just imagining a blue spark of light. What's happening? Well, guess what's happening? You're raising that part of you, of your awareness, conscious awareness, to fifth dimensional subharmonics. You're actually accelerating the frequency simply by visualizing, imagining an electric blue spark of light. This stuff is really real, and it becomes more real the more you do it. That's why it's necessary for these advanced techniques, especially that we teach the flame body activations, to create that transharmonic Akasha Merkaba vehicle. And all the history goes with it too. If you want to specialize in the history, we have all that too, but we have the mechanics and the dynamics too. And providing a framework through which to understand pretty much everything that's going on, okay? That blue spark of light represents a portion of your conscious awareness, and it is alive, awake, and aware. Take an inhale breath, and use your exhale breath. Move the blue spark down the central vertical current of your body to the tailbone. Inhale and exhale, and move that blue spark down the central vertical current of your body inside the tailbone, and breathe normally for a few moments while visualizing the blue spark inside of the tailbone. Use the next inhale. Draw the blue spark up to the pineal gland, then up through the 7th crown chakra at the top of your head. Draw the blue spark. It's electric blue, like a gas stove or a match flame. Draw it back up to the pineal gland and up out through the 7th chakra at the top of the head. Inhale and exhale. And imagine that blue spark at the top of your head turning into a blue disc of light about 4 inches in diameter, sitting horizontally on top of your head. Many, many groups use this. I'm a member of a magical fraternity for many, many decades. We were taught this very, very early on, to create your own dedicated channel to your own higher self, future self. There's where we go when we dream. When we dream, our consciousness detaches from its 3-dimensional focus and goes into some of the lower mid-astrals. It's going into the future. And the trick is to bring back from the future that guidance, that information, that love you receive to use in this world. But very often, not only are we not lucid and conscious in the dream state, we forget what we learned when we wake up, when the process is through the lower 3 strands, through unresolved karma. Very important to resolve that, especially now. You have a 4-inch in diameter blue disc on top of your head, sitting horizontally on top of your head, like a blue dish, a blue disc of light. Imagine now a small image of yourself as you look in physical reality, sitting on top of the blue disc. An image of yourself as you look in physical reality, simply sitting on top of the blue disc. This is your 5th dimensional contact platform. And the key is simply practice going into this contact space and staying focused there. Do it every day, because the secret of not just this technique, all the higher techniques, is being able to hold this space, to hold a 5th dimensional frequency in consciousness, to be able to visualize, to hold the focus. This is why the angels won't directly intervene to help necessarily, unless it's in a case like mine, like you really have to be here, you have a contract to fulfill. They will directly intervene. My walk-in was in me for about 10 years, downloaded with unbelievable information, which I just had no way of using until I got to be a teenager, where I found kindred spirits and like minds. But practice going to this contact space. And once you're able to hold that 5th dimensional contact space, usually a member of what we call the Emerald Order will approach you in your visualization on the blue disc platform, usually an angelic. Why? Because we normally go into that space when we go to sleep or in certain brain states. For them, all they have to do is just lower their frequency a little bit to meet you in the astral. It's a lot safer for them than for them coming fully into 3-dimensional embodiments. It's very, very risky. A lot of angels come here for R&R. There's a lot of great food here. A lot of great chefs haven't ascended. So if you want some really good Italian food, French cuisine, you come back, you come here. We've all chosen to be here. Before you go to sleep at night, say to yourself, when you're drifting off to sleep, I am ready for contact now. If you want to be really tricky, I am ready for Emerald Order, those races that honor the Emerald Order. I am ready for Emerald Order contact now. I am ready, and I will remember contact on awakening. I am ready for contact now. And they'll usually approach you. Some of you have had direct physical contact. And remember that physical contact will come through a physical, an embodied three-dimensional being. It could be, like Sheila said, it could be just a temporary in and out, walk in, walk out, or it could stay for a while. It could be a homeless. I pay a lot of, Alan knows this, I pay a lot of special attention to homeless people. They give me some of my best information, you know? So breathe easily and gently. We have, I think, 5 minutes. A lot of us are being led to different places on the planet. Why? Because the seals are opening and closing now. What I told you was a stellar activation cycle. One of the reasons we've asked to be here now, where the stargates are lining up and the Earth is being prepared for its ascension. The stellar bridge is going to infuse Earth with progressively higher dimensional frequency, causing the seals over the 7 primary vortices of the Earth to progressively open. And as each vortex open, the dimensional wave spectra associated with that vortex is going to start circulating through the Earth and circulating through our bodies, raising our frequency, okay, and preparing us for dimensional ascension. So starting in about 1988, I know I have 2 minutes, more than enough time. A lot of us were guided to go to Arizona. Sedona is a very powerful vortex, but it's secondary. The main vortex is in the Painted Desert. The Native Americans there know very well that the major vortex is in the Painted Desert. Started its opening cycle in 1988, usually stays open, and it's got to open on time and stay open. So the higher dimensional frequency, actually consciousness, can come in and embody within us and allow us to expand with it. The second major vortex on the planet, Jerusalem, Israel. And when you understand that that vortex has a lot to do with, with managing the emotional body of the planet, you see why that real estate has been hotly contested for not just thousands, millions of years. Jerusalem, Israel, second major vortex on the planet. Third major vortex, Himalayan mountains in Asia. I think it's in the Kunlun mountain range, north of Tibet, a place I'd like to take a private group. So far, no private group has ever been allowed to go to that place. I'd like to be the first, maybe next year or the year after. Himalayan mountains in Asia. Then in early 2000, Alan knows this, that Giza, Egypt, the Giza vortex opened and the stellar activation cycle, the shift of the ages, grounded, no turning back. Giza, Egypt, early in 2000, okay? The fourth major vortex. The fifth, Machu Picchu in Peru, started its opening cycle in June 2004, timed with that Venus transit weekend of June 2004. And guess what? All these sites, these vortexes, have matching sites in the world. The site that's match paired with Machu Picchu is the Vatican in Rome, which is very interesting because on the weekend of the Venus transit, President Bush, many of his top advisors, many of the Bilderbergers, and the elite were meeting at a site outside Rome. We think to pulse magnetic pulses from the Vatican into Machu Picchu so the vortex wouldn't open. Remember, if the seal doesn't open, the energy hits the vortex, which is not open, and it creates so much compaction, the planet would explode. But it didn't, naturally. Sixth, Caucasus Mountains in Russia. And the seventh major vortex, the Andes Lake Titicaca. Now they've all done their opening cycle. Titicaca opened in 2012, from 2012 to 2017. Now they begin their closing cycle. And you're going to notice that a lot of people, especially people like us, are going to be going to these sites or paired sites or sites that you can deal with these vortexes remotely. You don't have to be on the site itself. We're going to be drawn to Titicaca, to certain places in Russia, to Machu Picchu, back to Giza, back to Tibet, to Jerusalem, to the Painted Desert, or secondary or tertiary Stargate sites, because they have to start closing on time. Just like they had to open and stay open, they have to close on time, or else too much energy and frequency is going to come to the Earth, causing a lot of electromagnetic imbalance, pole migration, and worst case scenario again, full magnetic pole reversal. So this is just to show you, this I think is the opening of the 7 seals. Interestingly enough, the first of the vortexes to open is the last to close. And guess when the Painted Desert closes? Between 2042 and 2047. I know, Alan, I think a lot of people that are doing remote viewing, there seems to be a firewall, just like there used to be at 2012. People are coming back to me now, something about 2042, 2047, something very important, because that's the closing of the last of the 7 seals. Well, the first will be the last. So we have work to do. And part of that work to do is to learn how to forgive, to apologize. Because remember, when you apologize, you are placed in a position of never having been separated from the one. That's from the Pistis Sophia by way of Mary Magdalene. You know, I'm convinced that Jesus chose his disciples. He wanted the women, but the women came along with the men, so he had to get the men. Seems that the women were the only ones who understood the higher teachings, especially when he came back after the resurrection. Anyway, that's the opening of the 7 seals. That's the opening of the minds and the hearts. Grace is upon us, and our movement is always towards grace. And we're all feathers in each other's wings. We're all here together, and events like this, and Wish Alliance, and Portal to Ascension, Beyond Being Human, we're all here now, like strange attractors. We're being drawn together to do this work. And there's nothing more important than doing this work. Parallel Earth is already under a draconian one world order. And what happens on parallel Earth usually happens on our Earth, because our karma creates a block. You know, our chakras, and this will be the last. You know that our chakras up and down regulate and distribute life force currents up and down the dimensional scale. But what about the front and back cones of the chakras? The front and back cones of the chakras regulate consciousness back and forth between universes, between us and our parallel Earth and our parallel selves. When we create the condition known as karma that manifests as miasms, it blocks that natural mechanism that regulates the flow of consciousness between universes. And what you end up is a buildup of antiparticles, antimatter, in the matter particle base of our planet. Not just that, but consciousness of parallel Earth, which is already under one world order. So you see, we have to stop creating karma, because our individual karma is going to build up into collective Earth karma. And we can do that by gratitude, by compassion, by forgiveness, making an apology. Say you're sorry. I apologize. The word Apollo means not many. So when you apologize, you reaffirm oneness. And that, my friends, my dear friends, is the greatest force for healing in the world. And it will be the healing of our world. And I will tell you right now that we will know the full revelation of the Christos in our lifetimes. Isn't that right, Alan?
I think it sounds right, Phil. I mean, it's more than right, because beyond right and wrong, there's a field.
That's right.
We're going there.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, just everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
I just want to know, Phil, where do you get all this information from? Does it just come to you? You research it? I mean, how do you put together such a big cosmology?
I got a lot of this when I crashed with Alan. I'll be honest with you.
Well, you didn't get it from me, though. Did you get it from me?
Yes, you are. Yes.
I'm an aggregator of esoteric knowledge.
Yes, all the books there, the books and all the tapes and the futon and everything, I can digitally download vast stores of information.
I'm glad I was an influence. You were an influence on me too, Phil. But any last final words you want to leave us with?
What I can do, you can do. In my private classes, my mentorships, I'm here to share everything that I know. And it's my pleasure and my privilege to do so. And it's great to know what you're here to do. Like I said, that might change, but right now, I know I'm here to share everything I know to try to facilitate the potentials of ascension for all those who, again, who have ears to hear, eyes to see, and whatever else. people
You've
do.
been doing this since 2000 when you went to Egypt with Trisha McCannon and opened those gates of Amente, the halls of Amente.
I've been doing this for a very, very long time. But again, I would felt like I was doing this alone, like a lot of us feel like
Right.
we were doing this alone for so long, and we've had that feeling of such longing.
Well,
to be
how
with
can
people of like minds?
how can people find you? Somebody wants to, you know, talk to you, workshops. How do they find you?
My email is the best.
Which is
philgruber153@hotmail.com. I think it was posted. We'll post it again, and we'll post it throughout the weekend. I'm hoping.
great. Thank you, Mr. Phil Gruber, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Phil. Good to see your
Very welcome.
face.
Very welcome, Alan. Can't wait to come back.
Good. Keep reading that book. I know you're about finished with it. Yes,
Yes.
somewhere.
Thank-
Anyway,
Thank you.
that you'll be back later though for the panel.
I am hoping so. I'm about ready to collapse, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I will try. I will try. I will try. I will try.
Okay, Neil, were you going to say something, Neil?
Oh no,
Thank you
just a lot of love for you, Phil. And
Oh.
Right
and I
back
want
at
to
you.
just let everybody know that Phil just signed up like a couple of hours ago to be on a Beyond UFO Disclosure event that's taking place on February 16th. I sent down the email today 4 hours ago. We already have 450 people signed up for it.
Wow,
Yeah.
incredible!
So it's going to
Wow.
be really huge, and you guys can check him out there as well. Everybody gets that for
Right.
free.
We're going to get down to the nitty gritty.
Exactly.
Thank
That's
you very
amazing.
much. God bless each and every
Love you,
one of you.
brother.
Thank you again.
Phil.